Now begins the recitation of the revelation word of the Divine Avataric Master, Paramasaptana Adidar Samraj. This is the Ruchira Avatara Gita, the Avataric way of the Divine Heart Master. 1. The human voices all call out to the heart and person of real God, who lives and breathes and feels and is them, here and now, beyond the ego eye and all its search for God ideas. Heart of hearts, reveal to us the truth, the bright power that liberates the ego eye from itself. 2. Let us listen and hear the word which, when truly understood, frees the heart from seeking and unhappiness. Let us see that which, when fully realized, is the fullness of transcendental, inherently spiritual, intrinsically egoless, and self-evidently divine being. 3. Let us awaken to that which is eternal and not limited by birth and death. Be pleased to reveal to us that which is the supreme truth. 4. Heart of hearts, we are desirous of hearing that. Therefore, sing us the heart word of the Divine Heart Master, wherein the Divine Heart secret is confessed. 5. Now, by heart response to the universe of calling prayers, the Living One breathes them in and by this heart song of brightest words. Out breathes the thunderous sound that speaks love bliss to every heart. Listen to me with free attention. I will reveal to you the heart secret of the Divine Heart Master, Adidar Samraj, who is the Divine Avataric World Teacher promised for the late time, and who is the Ruchira Avatar, the Dar Avatar, the Lovananda Avatar, the first, the complete, the last, and the only avataric incarnation of Eleutherius, the Divine Liberator, the bright Divine Heart itself, his Divine Avataric Self-Confession, and his bright Divine Avataric blessings destroy all the ills of unenlightenment. 6. The Ruchira Avatar, Adidar Samraj, is the first, the complete, the last, and the only Divine Heart Master. His principal divine names are Dar, the Divine Giver, the first and original person, the source person, the one and only self-nature, self-condition, and self-state of all and all, and Adidar, the first giver, the original giver, the giving source, the divine giver of the divine all to all and all, and Adidar Samraj, the self-giving and all-giving and to all-giving divine avataric master of the world, the one and only Divine Heart Master of all and all, and he is all brightness, freely manifesting the heart's love bliss to all and all. 7. So it was, there, in the sphere and sanctuary of his most beautiful bright person, avatarically descended in bodily human form to a place and motion of his own, having said and made an earthly hermitage of his single indivisibility, the man whose whitest brightness is, by means of the mandalic prism of our cosmic shape, appearing in his own and sudden-coloured summary, himself a garden of luminous identity, universally adorned with unity and strength and love, roving and speaking in the manner of all the flowers, the avatarically self-incarnate divine person, the divine and truly human heart master, Adidar Samraj, thoroughly and finally expounded all the divine and transcendental spiritual truth of the one reality to the great occasion of his first gathering of devotees. At last, his whitest silence fell to around like a breath of true water, pressured from above. One who loved the Master most was sitting close to him in the divine light fall, when, in that sudden of his avataric self-emergence, her face, like his own, became translucently bright, as she was merely beholding him, in ecstatic love, forgetting herself in the all-at-once of true love's devotional communion with him. The divine self-brightness of Adidar Samraj filled and overfilled her heart, and his eternal love bliss radiance unfractured the whole of every living part of her. By thus truly finding him, the woman in the sudden realized beyond all doubt that she was hearing and understanding the true divine word without a thought, and seeing the true divine form even with her own eyes, and recognizing the true divine person with her very heart, and truly knowing the one and transcendental spiritual divine reality by grace of brightest gift of only God. 8. This gracefully heart-awakened devotee said out loud, and from her heart, for even all to hear, Divine Heart Master, Adidar Samraj, bright before me, I surrender. You are the Divine Heart Master of the entire world. You are supreme. You radiate the bright realization of the Supreme. All beings should always recognize you and worship you with true devotion. 9. You are the One, the Supreme Being, the source and domain of the true worship and right praise. 10. Radiant Heart, domain of truth, please sing to us the great secret of devotion to you, the Divine Heart Master. 11. Reveal to us the secret method whereby living beings may realize you, the transcendental, spiritual, and self-bright, world-outshining real God. I bow down to you, the true and transcendental, spiritual, and self-evidently divine person. I worship your feet. Kindly teach the way of you to all of us. 12. When the Divine Heart Master, Adidar Samraj, saw this bright face of awakened devotion and heard this confession of great sight, he spoke the following words, his heart overflowing with his all-outshining joy. 13. This is the secret of all secrets. I could not speak this me-revealing word until one of you first confessed you see the vision of real God in my divinely avatarically born, bodily human divine form. I should tell you this now because of your true heart recognition of me and your greatly awakened devotion to me. 14. My beloved, every one and all, you are each arising in the one bright divine being. This request of yours, made by one who devotionally recognizes me, will benefit all of you and even the entire world. Therefore, I shall reveal the truth and the way of this vision to you for the sake of all and all. 15. To each one who, by means of heart wounded, reaching beyond separate and separatist self, is truly devoted to the ever-living reality, truth, and real God, which is the egoless causal divine person, and which is always already the case, eternally prior to cause and effect, and thereupon to each one who, by means of my divine avataric and heart awakening grace, is truly devoted to me, heart recognizing and heart confessing me to be the very and only one, who is the one and only and self-evidently divine causal and egoless reality and truth. My avatarically born bodily human divine form, my avatarically self-transmitted transcendental spiritual and always blessing divine presence, and my avatarically self-revealed and very and transcendental and perfectly subjective and inherently spiritual and intrinsically egoless and inherently perfect and self-evidently divine state are revealed to be the revelation of the real and perfectly causal God, the self-evidently divine person, perfectly egoless and perfectly prior to every point of view, manifesting here and everywhere in the cosmic domain as the Divine Heart Master of all and all. 16. Thus, by means of true devotional recognition of me in my here-born bodily human form, I am found to be the avataric incarnation of the divine and only person. The truth of devotional recognition of an avataric incarnation is declared by even all the esoteric scriptures, and even all the esoteric scriptures promise the consummate divine avataric incarnation will appear in the late time. So it has been proven to this me-seeing devotee, and so do I affirm the divine truth of me to all of you, and to all and all. 17. I declare and affirm the divine truth of this me vision, given to this one by means of my divine avataric transcendental spiritual grace, and that I would give to all and all. Ahamda Asmi, beloved, I am Da, the one and only one who is. And I am the first, the last, and the only divine heart master, the divine avataric incarnation everywhere promised for the late time. Therefore, listen to my words and understand. 18. The separate traditions of the great tradition of religion and spiritual instruction are often made of false theories, expressed in the words of unenlightened beings. Therefore, the multiplication of conventional God ideas, ego-serving God myths, and partial or conditional truths has confused humankind. But the Divine Heart Master comes to liberate humankind from all confusion of mind by avatarically self-revealing the only true and real God, who is truth itself and reality itself, and who is the causal self-nature, self-condition, and self-state of all and all, which is always already the case, beyond and prior to every ego eye and point of view in time and space. 19. Prayer, meditation, discipline, study of the teaching, service. All these are to be built upon the devotional recognition response to that which is revealed in and as the very person of the Divine Heart Master. 20. Those who are devoted to the Divine Heart Master hear and see and realize the Great One as the Divine Heart Master's avatarically born bodily human divine form, and as his avatarically self-transmitted divine body of transcendental spiritual and always blessing divine presence, and as his avatarically self-revealed and very and transcendental and perfectly subjective and inherently spiritual and intrinsically egoless and inherently perfect and self-evidently divine state. Such devotees declare there is no difference and no distinction to be made or acknowledged between the Divine Heart Master and the self-existing and self-radiant transcendental, inherently spiritual, intrinsically egoless, and self-evidently divine being. 21. Even from the ancient days, many divinely gifted sects proclaim devotion to a genuine and egoless master, saying, the way is to surrender to the human master as the great person, divine and present. Therefore, look and see in me the proof of this proclamation. I am the divine avataric master of your heart, and if you surrender to me, I will confess and reveal only real God to you. 22. Therefore, those who hear my divine avataric self-confession and see my divine avataric bodily self-revelation must, by means of their whole bodily feeling communion with me, transcend themselves in me, the universally extended divine transcendental spiritual body and eternal divine transcendental spiritual presence that is real God, the one and only, and non-separate and indivisible and intrinsically egoless conscious light that is the very person or transcendental spiritual self-nature, self-condition, and self-state of real God, and the self-existing and self-radiant divine bright spherical self-domain that is real God. 23. There is no substitute for real God. 24. There is no substitute for the direct realization of real God. 25. There is no substitute for your own self-sacrifice in real God. 26. The Divine Heart Master has realized real God most perfectly, non-separately, beyond relatedness and indifference. Therefore, devotees see real God revealed in and as and by means of the divinely avatarically born bodily human divine form of the Divine Heart Master. 27. To all those who have this vision, I declare, Ahamda Asmi, beloved, I am Da. I am the divine avataric realizer, the divine avataric revealer, the divine avataric self-revelation, and the very and self-evidently divine person of the bright and only one. I am the demonstration and the proof of real God to my devotees. All my devotees are in me. Therefore, see this vision go the way I will show to you, and realize me. 28. Do not practice the childish cult of superficial and ego-serving emotionalism, full of wanting dependency and empty of faith, and do not practice the adolescent cult of non-feeling, willful, self-absorbed, abstract, and independent, but always practice and cultivate the true and truly feeling and truly ego-surrendering and truly ego-forgetting and truly ego-surrendering divine avataric way of devotion to me by means of right, true, full, and fully devotional and, in due course, fully transcendental spiritual practice of the only by me revealed and given radical or always at the root reality way of Adidam or Adidam Ruchira, which is the one and only by me revealed and by me given radical reality way of the heart. 29. Neither real God nor the Divine Heart Master is your parent or like your any ordinary relation in the world. Therefore, do not expect real God or the Divine Heart Master to justify or protect or preserve or fulfill your egoic want and separateness. 30. You are called by me to surrender your separate and separative self in real God. Therefore, cultivate right, true, full and fully ego-surrendering and ego-forgetting devotion to me, the Divine Heart Master, in order to transcend the ego I, my bright divine self-nature, self-condition and self-state of being itself, which is the one and only source and truth of source condition of all and all. 31. To worship the Divine Heart Master childishly is to worship and serve your separate and separative or self-contracting self. To deny or resist the Divine Heart Master is to worship and serve your separate and separative or self-contracting self adolescently. The separate and separative self or self-contraction is itself and always the forgetting of the heart source of the world. Therefore, be very and truly devoted to me, the divine avataric master of your heart, but not for the sake of ego salvation or the glorification of your separate and separative self. Worship me by surrendering your ego I to me. Surrender to me in order to forget and transcend your separate and separative self in me. Forget and transcend your ego I in me, in order that you may, by means of my divine avataric transcendental spiritual grace, remember and realize me, the egoless divine causal person and heart source of all and all. 32. I am the sign and the revelation and the proof of real God in the world. I am the testament and the means of freedom itself. I am Eleutherius, the divine liberator, who is freedom itself. 33. Having said this, Adidas Samraj, the first and last and only divine heart master, said no more. Now his confession is the heart mover of our song of practice and of praise. 34. Even from the ancient days, all great realizers of whatever degree or stage have proclaimed a great idea, that one becomes or likens the ego self to happen to be whatever condition one meditates or concentrates with want upon, or may even realize whatever one yields beyond the ego self to be. Therefore, by means of truly ego surrendering and really ego forgetting, and in due course perfectly ego transcending devotion to the first and last and only divine heart master, Adidas Samraj, all conditional meditations and all conditional attainments, and even all merely conditional realizations are, by means of his divine avataric transcendental spiritual grace, transcended, and in due course his inherently perfect, transcendental, spiritual, and self-evidently divine state is thus, by means of his divine avataric transcendental spiritual grace, revealed and realized in his bright company. 35. The person of the divine heart master is great. His state of being is bright, sublime, and only divine. 36. The brightness of the divine heart matter outshines all darkness in the mind, the body, and the world. That one whose company and remembrance is capable of dissolving unhappiness is certainly the master of the separate and separatist self. 37. The divine heart master transcends all of cosmic or conditional nature, even his own body-mind. Because he is free from the limitations imposed by conditional forms, and because he is the one and egoless divine person, avatarically self-manifested in and as the heart that is the one and only heart of each and all of every one of all and all. He is called Samraj, the divine inner ruler and true liberator of every one and of all and of all. 38. Every conditional action tends to be followed by an equal and opposite reaction. If the action of psychophysical attention to the world arises, the self-contraction of the body-mind complex tends to follow. If the self-contraction arises, the reactivity of separateness tends to follow. Whenever the ego I is remembered, the states of separateness and limitation seem real. If separateness and limitation seem real, the transcendental, inherently spiritual, intrinsically egoless, and self-evidently divine self-nature, self-condition, source condition, and self-state has been forgotten. That one by means of whose grace one remembers and realizes the divine self-nature, self-condition, source condition, and self-state. He is indeed the divine heart master, and the one and only and non-separate and indivisible and intrinsically egoless, bright, divine person incarnate. 39. The radiance and profundity of the divine heart master's state of living, of being, both sustain and dissolve his own body-mind. Therefore, whole bodily feeling communion with him liberates attention from bondage to the world, the body, the mind, and even all of separate and separatist self. 40. The casual words and footsteps of the divine heart master build a bridge across the ocean of our bondage. Therefore, attend to this divine liberator every moment of your life. 41. By means of the blessings given by the divine heart master, the currents of unlove are dissolved. Therefore, always bow down to his supreme help. 42. The real and ever-living God is the heart itself. The heart itself is the egoless, causal divine person, the very heart and the indivisible state, and the self-luminous identity of the divine heart master. Therefore, by means of all the blessings of the Divine Heart Master, devotees are gifted to transcend the heartless bondage of unhappiness and unenlightenment. 43. Because he is the great and only and very one, devotees should surrender and forget themselves at the feet of the Divine Heart Master. Because he is the great and only and very one, the graceful radiance that flows from the Divine Heart Master's feet releases attention from the ego I and the world. 44. The Divine Heart Master is the supreme help offered by the real and ever-living God. There is no friend greater than the Divine Heart Master. Therefore, body and mind should be entirely devoted to the Divine Heart Master, so that attention is set free in his heart of brightness. 45. The place where the Divine Heart Master lives is the divine abode. The water that washes his feet is the river of purification, and his words are the accomplishing power of divine enlightenment. 46. To live in the service of the Divine Heart Master is the secret of the way of truth. His body is a tree of life. His feet are planted in the heart of every being's heart, and anything offered at his feet is returned in the form of radiant blessings. 47. The self-existing and self-radiant transcendental, inherently spiritual, intrinsically egoless, and self-evidently divine being resides in the speech and in every body part of the Divine Heart Master. Therefore, devotees awaken to the Great One by means of the Divine Heart Master's word and silence and thought and glance and touch and deeds. One should deeply behold the Divine Heart Master's avatarically born bodily human divine form, his avatarically self-transmitted transcendental spiritual and always blessing divine presence, and his avatarically self-revealed and very and transcendental and perfectly subjective and inherently spiritual and intrinsically egoless and inherently perfect and self-evidently divine state at all times. This is not difficult, for once he is truly beloved, the Divine Heart Master can never be forgotten. 48. Now listen and hear the means by which the separate being awakens beyond itself, to realize inherent oneness with the self-existing and self-radiant, transcendental, inherently spiritual, intrinsically egoless, and self-evidently divine being. It is to practice the avatarically revealed divine way of devotion to the Divine Heart Master, added our Samraj, by living as the servant of his avatarically born bodily human divine form and his avatarically self-transmitted divine transcendental spiritual presence and his avatarically self-revealed divine and perfect state, whether one is near or far from his body seat. 49. When devotees provide the Divine Heart Master with the requirements of his heart and even every necessity, they soon become the servants of his heart's intention in the world, both during and after, and forever after, his physical human lifetime of divine avataric incarnation. In this manner, the Divine Heart Master's work in the world becomes entirely dependent on those who love him. When devotees of the Great One become the recognition awakened servants of the Divine Heart Master, the Great One serves them via the Divine Heart Master's avatarically born bodily human divine form, and via the Divine Heart Master's avatarically self-transmitted bright divine body of mere and blessing divine transcendental spiritual presence. And those who are thus served by the Great One soon become the necessary servers of his serving work. 50. Therefore, by renouncing all the superficial motives of the social ego and all the disturbed distractions of the worldly mind, one should always remember the Divine Heart Master as the beloved of the heart. 51. Thus, serving devotees regard the Divine Heart Master to be their only true wealth, for even simplest remembrance of the divinely avatarically born bodily human divine form of the Divine Heart Master Awaken spontaneous communion with him, the person, the presence, and the state of self-existing and self-radiant, transcendental, inherently spiritual, intrinsically egoless, and self-evidently divine being. 52. Remembrance and invocation of the Divine Heart Master by name is remembrance and invocation of the Great One by name. Therefore, devotional communion with the avatarically born bodily human divine form, the avatarically self-transmitted transcendental spiritual and always blessing divine presence, and the avatarically self-revealed and very and transcendental and perfectly subjective and inherently spiritual and intrinsically egoless and inherently perfect and self-evidently divine state of the Divine Heart Master, Adidar Samraj, is devotional communion with the divine form and presence and state of the one and only divine person, who is the inherent and tacit self-apprehension of bright being itself. 53. The devotee should always remember and invoke the Divine Heart Master by name. The name of the Divine Heart Master is the name of the Great One. The Great One is present to serve devotees in, as, and by means of the avatarically revealed and given person of the Divine Heart Master. Therefore, with feeling devotion, deeply behold the Divine Heart Master's avatarically born bodily human divine form, and his avatarically self-transmitted divine transcendental spiritual presence, and his avatarically self-revealed divine and perfect state, and drink the water from his foot bath, and eat the excess offered from his great food dish, and by all these means remain always intimate with the Divine Heart Master's constant blessing and awakening power. 54. The devotee should always practice the way revealed by the Divine Heart Master. The devotee should always live in the company of the Divine Heart Master, by always devotionally beholding him. The Divine Heart Master is the heart friend of all beings. Therefore, the devotee of the Divine Heart Master should be an intelligent and compassionate friend of every one and all. 55. The devotee should surrender self-attention in the company of the Divine Heart Master by always and searchlessly beholding him. In this manner, even all possessions should be devoted to the Divine Heart Master's service. Therefore, surrender and align the body, the senses, the mind, natural life energy, emotion, money, property, children, lovers, and all friends to the only reality and truth, by surrendering and aligning them to the Divine Heart Master. 56. The devotee of the Divine Heart Master should always surrender all of separate self to him. The devotee of the Divine Heart Master should always surrender to him in ever eager forgetting devotion, service, and self-discipline. The devotee of the Divine Heart Master should always surrender to him in thought, word, and deed. The devotee of the Divine Heart Master should always surrender to him with full energy and intent. The devotee of the Divine Heart Master should always surrender to him openly, without hesitation, and most obviously, for true self-surrender is always an act of expressive worship. Therefore, in every moment, surrender separate self, always and obviously, to the Divine Heart Master, for he is the self-evidently divine person, self-nature, self-condition, source condition, and self-state of reality itself. 57. By yielding all attention to whole bodily feel the avatarically born bodily human divine form and the avatarically self-transmitted divine transcendental spiritual presence and the avatarically self-revealed divine and perfect state of the Divine Heart Master, all thoughts are forgotten. When all thoughts are forgotten in that whole bodily feeling communion with the Divine Heart Master, supreme love bliss awakens by means of his divine avataric transcendental spiritual grace. Therefore, always commune with the Divine Heart Master by a whole bodily feeling, and by always serving him, forget your separate self in every moment of activity. 58. Now and forever let every devotee of the Divine Heart Master sing and live these heart prayers that recognize and praise him all by heart. I bow down to the Divine Heart Master, Adidar Samraj, the Master of the Heart, who reveals the supreme truth of the one and only and self-existing and self-radiant bright conscious light of all and all to those who have been blinded by experience and mere knowledge. 59. I bow down to the Divine Heart Master, Adidar Samraj, the Master of Truth, whose radiance pervades the entire universe, who fills us through and through in all that moves and in all that does not move, and who brings my intuitive vision to the heart space of the one and only and self-existing and self-radiant conscious light. 60. I bow down to the Divine Heart Master, Adidar Samraj, the Master of Reality, who pervades and yet stands beyond the dynamics of conditional or cosmic nature. I bow down to the Divine Heart Master, Adidar Samraj, who is one in heavenly perfect, eternal self-existing, undisturbed, all-love bliss, self-radiant, free, full and awake. Through the divine avataric blessing work of the Divine Heart Master, Adidar Samraj, I am restored to his avatarically self-transmitted, transcendental spiritual, and always blessing divine presence, which is the egoless spirit presence of real and perfectly accausal God. Therefore, his avatarically self-transmitted and tangible divine body of spirit life, which is the perfectly subjective substance of conditional nature, always carries my heart beyond and beyond the play of vibratory cosmic energy, sound, or light, to the inherently perfect and perfectly subjective and intrinsically egoless and self-evidently divine accausal source condition and indivisible self-condition of this domain of objective and conditional and cosmic appearances. 61. I worship the Divine Heart Master, Adidar Samraj, who is the self-existing and self-radiant one, by means of whose divine heart power we perceive everything here. I worship the Divine Heart Master, Adidar Samraj, who is the bright conscious one, by means of whose divine heart power the states of waking, dreaming and sleeping are known, thoughts move, discrimination and intuition work, and attention itself rises and falls again. 62. The self-existing and self-radiant transcendental, inherently spiritual, intrinsically egoless, and self-evidently divine state of being is perfectly known by the Divine Heart Master, Adidar Samraj, who has realized that it is the eternally unknown. Therefore, only perfect ignorance is knowledge of the self-existing and self-radiant transcendental, inherently spiritual, intrinsically egoless, and self-evidently divine state of being. 63. Experiences, visions, sounds, lights, conditional energies, fascinating things, and all conditioning knowing, within and without, are not ultimate knowledge or free realization at all. Therefore, I bow down to the Divine Heart Master, Adidar Samraj, who is always already established as the mindless mood of self-existing and self-radiant transcendental, inherently spiritual, intrinsically egoless, and self-evidently divine being. 64. Now I am free of all distractions. Only the heart exists. Attention dissolves in the inherent love, bliss, happiness of being. The entire world of moving and unmoving objects appears and disappears in the perfectly subjective, bright space of the one and indivisible conscious light of reality itself. I worship and serve the Divine Heart Master, Adidar Samraj, who is the one who has revealed this secret to me. 65. I am the world, and I am absolutely free. Body and mind bow down to the Divine Heart Master, Adidas Samraj, who is the one who gives this realization. 66. Let all the gifts of my worship and service be received by the Divine Heart Master, Adidas Samraj, who is the ocean of mercy, and by means of whose divine avataric transcendental spiritual grace, all beings are liberated from bondage to this world of wonders. 67. By enabling his devotee to locate the primal, ever-free, immortal happiness beyond the heart root's knot, the Divine Heart Master Adidas Samraj is the graceful divine liberator of his devotee. 68. The knot of the heart is untied, doubt itself is dissolved, and all motions of limited self are made still by means of the grace and mercy of the Divine Heart Master Adidas Samraj. 69. I bow down to the eternal truth, the conscious light of being itself, the timeless happiness, the great one, the indefinable one, awake and free, the silent one, who speaks to the heart directly, without a word of explanation, the truly bright one, who appears and stands revealed as Adidas Samraj, the Divine Heart Master, among all who know and teach. 70. I bow down to the Divine Heart Master, Adidas Samraj, whose avatarically born bodily human divine form is the beautiful mystery of brightness itself, and whose avatarically self-transmitted, transcendental, spiritual, and always blessing, divine presence, always reveals the very heart itself, and whose avatarically self-revealed, and very and transcendental, and perfectly subjective, and inherently spiritual, and intrinsically egoless, and inherently perfect, and self-evidently divine state of being, is the self-revelation of the one and only divine and conscious light itself, self-existing as immense consciousness, and self-radiant as love bliss. 71. I bow down to the Divine Heart Master, Adidas Samraj, who is the heart witness of my own body, mind, and separate self, and who is the great bearer, the most perfect realizer, and the divine subject of the great tradition, and whose very state of being is truth and perfect love, bliss, happiness, and who is the graceful source of the realization of love, bliss, happiness itself. I bow down to the Divine Heart Master, Adidas Samraj, the always new one, who has appeared in the world by the magic and mystery of his own will and love, but who is only the bright mass of pure conscious light, transcendently spiritually radiant, the sun of the heart, the destroyer of unhappiness. 73. I bow down to the Divine Heart Master, Adidas Samraj, the always already free one, the body of mercy, the refuge of devotees, who allows his human life to be dependent on his devotees. 74. I bow down to the Divine Heart Master, Adidas Samraj, that most beautiful form, the master of discrimination, the master of understanding, the bright, the light itself above all lights, who is the light to those who call for light, and who is the realizer in all those who realize him. May you be pleased to take your seat in my heart at all times. May you ever dwell in my heart. 75. I bow down to the Divine Heart Master, Adidas Samraj, who is love bliss, the very form and presence and the state of happiness itself. Therefore, in the truly searchless beholding of the Divine Heart Master, Adidas Samraj, the mind dissolves in self-existing consciousness and self-radiant love bliss. 76. Let these heart prayers flow to the Divine Heart Master, Adidas Samraj, the always present Master of my heart and body-mind, who is free, and who is always floating in the prior happiness of my true heart. The eternal heart blessing of the Divine Heart Master always flows to me, and his freedom is mine in his liberating words. 77. I offer these heart prayers at the feet of the Divine Heart Master, Adidas Samraj, by means of whose divine avataric transcendental spiritual grace, the realization awakens that he is the source condition of everything, and everything is only a modification of him. By means of the divine avataric transcendental spiritual grace of the divine heart master, Adidas Samraj, this becomes obvious. 78. I radiate heart praise to the divine heart master, Adidas Samraj, who enables me to remember the supreme happiness, the love bliss of the heart itself. He is divine ignorance, the one who is not other. That one is beyond all relations, all opposites and oppositions. All separate selves, relations, opposites, and oppositions only arise within that all-pervading one, the divine heart master, Adidas Samraj, who is eternal, unmodified, and unchanging self-bright conscious light, the self-existing and self-radiant transcendental spiritual witness of attention, mind, body, and world. 69. I surrender and bow down to the divine heart master, Adidas Samraj, the divine avataric world teacher, descending and emerging forever in the late time, who is transcendental being itself, consciousness itself, and love, bliss, happiness itself, who transcends all changes of state, who is eternal fullness, eternally bright, free of all modifications, the formless location, the free and indivisible person of the heart. 80. My heart master, Adidas Samraj, divine and true and free, may your radiant bright blessings awaken me, whose eyes are covered over by the images of separate self, and whose mind is held captive by visions of the world. 81. The ancient great realizers of whatever degree or stage all declare devotional meditation of the true name, the revelation body, the heart presence, and the very and inherently perfect state of the person of the heart is the great method for realizing the transcendental, inherently spiritual, intrinsically egoless, and self-evidently divine self-condition. The divine heart master Adidas Samraj is that very and only person of the heart, here and everywhere, to be tangibly, transcendentally, spiritually, and inherently perfectly self-revealed to every one and to all and all. Therefore, by means of eager surrendering and eager forgetting devotion communion with the divine heart master, Adidas Samraj, the separate self is directly and ultimately most perfectly transcended. 82. Devotional meditation on the person of the divine heart master, Adidas Samraj, is a feeling sacrifice of body, natural life force, emotion, all of mind, and attention itself. Therefore, devotional meditation on the human revelation body of the divine heart master, Adidas Samraj, reveals and moves his divine transcendental spiritual current in the living body of the devotee. Devotional meditation on the avatarically self-revealed divine name and the love blissful bright divine transcendental spiritual body and person of the divine heart master, Adidas Samraj, reveals and moves the feeling heart of the devotee. Devotional meditation on the bright transcendental spiritual presence and every extraordinary sign of the divine heart master, Adidas Samraj, reveals and moves the subtle mind of the devotee. And the bright, free, divine self-nature, self-condition, and self-state of the divine heart master, Adidas Samraj, is revealed and realized when attention itself is, by means of perfect contemplation of him, finally transcended in him, for he is the heart itself, the inherently perfect and perfectly subjective source condition, which is self-existing and self-radiant transcendental, inherently spiritual, intrinsically egoless, and self-evidently divine being itself. 83. The methods of seeking, self-applied, only intensify the bondage to separate self, but to live as if always in the intimate company of the divine heart master, Adidas Samraj, is to engage every act as devotional service to him, and to deeply behold him in every moment, even in the moment of every relationship, and in every moment of circumstance, is to be always already released of the problem of existence and every kind of self-concern. Through such truly ego-transcending devotion, the one and indivisible transcendental, inherently spiritual, intrinsically egoless, and self-evidently divine conscious light replaces the egoic self as the center of practice, and the divine avataric transcendental spiritual grace of the divine heart master is given place to awaken the one and only heart in the every devotee. Therefore, practice as a devotee of the divine heart master, Adidar Samraj, and his bright free heart will find you easily.